Hello everyone, Zipso here with an instructional video detailing how I went about approaching Telethia the Endbringer and ultimately defeating her after 43 grueling attempts of learning. Before we get started, I just want to add a small disclaimer that this encounter is certainly not for the faint of heart. It requires an extreme level of concentration and an unbroken focus lasting anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how high you're able to boost your attack stats outside of the other necessary things you will need to see the same success. It's probably worth noting that she may not have been intended to be killed on foot, so this strategy requires practice and finesse. If you wipe out, grab the surfboard, get back on, and try again. The Telethia has an arsenal of moves that if not prepared for will check you the moment she decides to use them, so it's important that you cover all the bases. Unfortunately, I'm not going to go into all the exact locations of the materials you will need to craft the augments and places to get your gear. This guide assumes you're at least aware of the basics of post-game farming and that you can figure this stuff out on your own. If all else fails, you can do exactly what I did when I had those kinds of questions. Google it. That being said, let me tell you what those bases are. As they say, preparation is half the battle, and it's no less true in this instance. What you're going to want to be doing is suiting up to cover all of the incoming horrifics Telethia will send your way. Firstly, and likely the most important, is Ether Resistance up XX. Her damage is far too high to simply face tank without stacking resistances, and you're going to need a lot of it. It was about 130 resistance that I was able to floor her damage and thus move on to worrying about actually killing her rather than being able to cope with her damage. Phase 3, however, is a delicate balancing act of being able to deal competent damage and survive all of the ethery nasty she's going to be shooting at you. The first thing you might be thinking is, but Zipso, can't I just Ether Reflect and be done with it? Nope. Telethia has a few attacks that actually bypass Reflect, and so you still need to be suitably geared to resist Ether damage or you'll most likely die in the first phase. The next thing you're going to want is a Nullify Reflect Augment for your chosen element. Telethia activates a Reflect barrier at random times during the encounter, and without a Nullify Reflect Augment, you will instantly kill yourself the moment she does. If you have a Nullify Reflect trait on your gear without needing an augment, this is preferable, as it frees up augment slots for other things that are going to help you manage the fight better and quicker. Firing range increases are going to be necessary to lessen the pain of distance between you and Telethia in Phase 1 and Phase 3. Unfortunately for us ground build psychos, Telethia has wings and she isn't afraid to use them. For my build, I got lucky with a thermal Gatling gun that had firing range as a natural trait. I then supplemented this further by using the 25 meter firing range increase skill and a single firing range augment XX to be able to meet the standards I felt were appropriate in order to not overlap other important augments like the Nullify Reflect or Arts TP. The amount of firing range you will need depends entirely on the weapon you're choosing to main for this encounter. In this video I use the Gatling gun, but I've personally confirmed the dual guns are also a viable choice, and I'm positive that the assault rifle can do it as well. I'm making attempts with the sniper rifle, but Phase 3 is a lot more difficult due to the lack of hit count in the sniper rifle's art pool. More on that later. Speaking of Arts TP, you're going to want at the very absolute least one of them. I used 2 in the build shown in the video out of concerns for being safe, but it's probably doable with 1, allowing you to further maximize your DPS. You go a non-laughable amount of time in this encounter between Phase 2 and Phase 3 being completely out of range of Miss Endbringer, and you need ways to amass TP on your own to stay alive while she's cheating from the sky. But most importantly, get overdrive to max before she even gets within range for you to start pelting her face with bullets. The next 2 parts are interchangeable, but both highly recommended due to the difference in kill speed you will experience with or without. If you're using the shield or the javelin as your melee slot weapon, you have access to a Reflect aura. If this is you, I highly recommend slotting a Reflect Ether Augment. This will allow you to reflect the sleep attack, allowing you to move and react unhindered to the Telethia's attacks, and avoid getting stuck in long sleep chains that kill your overdrive, and if you're not good friends with RNG, will sometimes kill you in frustrating bouts of bad luck. Slotting 1 or 2 sleep resists XX will make it so you avoid sleep most of the time, but occasionally it may get you, and more importantly, this takes away from your ever so important ether resistance pool, meaning you should have a way to cover that difference, either through your probes or an aura of some kind. You will also need to consider Control Resist XX because she has a mind control in Phase 2. So, all said and done, you're going to need a few things before you even pull the colossal bird from the sky. 120 to 130 ether resistance, or effectively that much if you're using probes. I found that one S probe coupled with around 90 ether resistance covered the gap. A Nullify Reflect for your chosen element, 1 to 2 arts TP gain XX, 1 to 2 firing range XX or firing range skill maxed, sleep resist XX, control resist XX or reflect ether, at least 465 ranged accuracy, and of course patience, and lots of it. These requirements probably appear to be quite demanding, and I think that's a reasonable thing, but this is also the highest level tyrant in the game, probably not even meant to be killed on foot, so you had to expect a bit of effort be put in if you want to stand toe to toe with a gal. Now you're ready to kill a giant glowing winged angry crystal bird tyrant. Let's talk about phases. You're going to want to position yourself on the side of the tallest mountain that Telethia patrols closest to. You can pull her from on foot as long as you can reach her, but there is a bit of lag time from when you first connect a hit with her and when she decides to stop moving. Turn around and start busting your chops with ethery magic goodness. Because of the finickiness of this and in general the frustration of having to start over if she didn't turn around soon enough, because she overshot her path, I just went with shooting her from my scale a bit before she reaches the mountain so that she halts at just about face with it, letting you exit your scale and begin the bullet brigade. This phase is mostly about survival. Her evasion is quite high, so that is where all of that accuracy is going to be put to work. Keep a steady rotation on her while building your overdrive. Once you get it to max, keep it there and don't let go. If you're not running a reflect ether, be prepared to refresh your auras and buffs early to be safe, and keep your overdrive clock high, because it's possible for her to sleep you until your overdrive falls off if your clock is too low. If you're packing good enough sleep resist, it's possible to get through this phase without getting slept, which is great. She has one ability, an Ether Beam-like attack in Phase 1 that completely ignores Reflect however, and this is also by far her most dangerous ability, because even if you resist the damage, it launches your character high in the air and throws you back. If you are positioned poorly when this happens, you will fly off the mountain, effectively bollocksing the attempt, meaning you'll have to run her off and then start all over again. Once you reach about 60%, give or take, she will go invincible and begin to descend to the ground in preparation for Phase 2. This means you have to jump into your skull and fly in order to pursue the overgrown laser chicken. Land somewhere around this area and prepare for Telethia to touch ground. Once she does, she will continue to attack you this time with a few extra abilities. First, a tail swipe, which does physical damage. This can be brought down a lot if using quality heavy armor or physical resistance up traits on your gear. Again, it's possible to reflect this. The next and more potent is a mind control ability. Her landing a mind control on you almost ensures that you will lose your overdrive in whatever aura you're using to survive, which means she one-shots you because you're still targetable by her while you're controlled. This gets reflected if using Ether Reflect, but if you're battling her without, you'll need to plan at least one slot to control Resist XX and hope luck is on your side. Phase 2 is actually quite short. It is a full-on damage burn phase. Her evasion is much lower and you can hit her much easier. You'll find that you'll be able to really pour damage into the beast during this phase. It's important that you burn her through this phase as quickly as possible to prevent the allowance of RNG douchery to get you. Remember, one badly timed control or launch or sleep and it's bye-bye. All in all, this phase is about putting out as much damage as mimiosominly possible to get her into Phase 3 with as much haste as possible. The sooner you get out of Phase 2, the sooner you get into a rhythm for Phase 3 and start working on your positioning, and the less chance there is of chance just wiping you out with barely a moment's notice. This is where patience comes greatly needed. Telethia wages an all-out war of attrition on you in a frustrating roundabout of healing and an incredibly damage-dampening evasion aura that stacks to 3. First, positioning. You will need to fly back up near the peak of the mountain you originally pulled Telethia's attention and shoot with at least one bullet to get her attention. If you just stay on the ground below, she will fly back up and idle, waiting for you. Fly up, shoot or smack her in the groin, then do your best to fly back down. There's a high likelihood of her destroying your skull before you can make it anywhere, so make sure you're ready for the quick time event. It is possible to land on the top of the mountain, exit the skull, and then jump down with her in your pursuit, avoiding the necessity of breaking your skull, but I found that the skull break method was simpler, and also it sets up melee javelin mains for potentially fun third phase using maximum voltage. Once you've reached the ground, it's important to get overdrive running, and get a healthy amount of TP prepared to sustain yourself, as drawing her near enough to the ground to attack her is going to take some patience and finesse, and knowledge of her movement mechanics. If you create enough distance between you and the Telethia, the bird will fly in a descending motion to bridge that gap. It is your goal to take advantage of this in order to get her as close to the ground as possible. As I've tested it myself, it's very possible to get her close enough to the ground to melee her. Although I haven't yet tested personally, I'm quite sure that melee builds are capable of doing well on this fight in phase 2 and 3, with the exception of needing at least 2 arts dedicated to range DPS in the first phase. In any case, once you're able to be in range of her, you can begin again with the same rotation you ran in phase 1. She will use mostly the same attack pool, but this time there's a slight difference to the encounter. She has a thrice stacking aura that increases her evasion immensely per stack. The stack can be reduced in essentially one way, by hitting her a lot, sort of like your microwave. It works in very much the same way as Decoy, except, well, a lot more hits are required and it deals mostly with just raising her evasion to incredible heights. Initially, when you begin combat with her after getting her in range, she will stack it to 3 quickly. Prepare to miss a lot, while you spam your multi-hitting arts to break the stack as quickly as possible. Once the stack breaks, the buff will disappear and you may do damage to her unhindered by her ridiculously high evasion. Her ×1 stack seems to refresh at a very high frequency, so it won't be long before she has at least 1 stack on her. And this is how it will be for much of the fight. However, the second and third stack seem to be on a much longer cooldown, and she will not refresh the second and third stack until after some time has passed, in which case you need to go all out and break it once again to get her down to 0 to 1 stack. Please remember that all the while you are focusing on doing this, she is healing. That's right, she has a heal over time, constantly running on herself, and the longer you spend with a 3-stack aura, missing like a blind frog near an ant farm, the more she completely negates any of the damage you've done to her during periods of 0 to 1 stack. This is predominantly the reason why this phase of the fight can take so long, and ultimately why patience, concentration and focus is by far one of the most important things you can bring to this fight. If you miss a beat, you get behind and things can snowball easily and very quickly. Continue managing your positioning while she continues to launch and jam your face full of effort. Manage your health in overdrive and she will eventually die a very slow but exciting and heart-racing death that you can be proud of. Ultimately, this is everything I was able to find and figure out about soloing the Telethia encounter on foot during my time working on her. You're free to use the same setup and get your own kills in the name of ground builds worldwide if you want. I'm just glad to be able to show the world that there are very many ways to play the game and that if you can think of it, you should try it. That's what I did and I came out feeling more accomplished than I think any game in recent history that I've played has made me feel. It's a rewarding encounter and I hope you have fun with it, learning it as I did. Don't get frustrated, it's likely you will die a lot and need to make corrections to your gear to get just the right mix and match of augments, traits and skills and arts, but once you do, you'll get her, and then you can let me know how it went. Thanks for watching everyone, and good luck!